dudes, what's up? So, as you guys know, these milestone motocross games have always had this inverted whip problem. And I wanted to go in here and talk about this because I just cannot believe this is still a thing in these milestone motocross games. So, if you don't know, basically, ever since the beginning of time of these dual stick controls in these motocross games back in Reflex, every single game since then has sort of been this where you turn both your thumbsticks the same direction to whip. So it's either like you're going to turn your left and right thumbsticks to the left if you want to whip to the left, or you're going to turn your left and right thumbsticks to the right if you want to whip to the right, coming off of the jump face. Well, these milestone motocross game company gets the fantastic idea to go in there and invert all of that. So with these games, you have to turn your thumbsticks the opposite direction when you come off a jump face to whip. So you've got to like turn your left thumbstick to the left and your right thumbstick to the right, or it won't do anything off of the jump face. It'll barely even move. So I just don't get why they do that. And on top of that, they don't even give you the option to invert the inverted controls. They don't even let you change it back to like it is in every single other dual stick control motocross game out there. It's like, what the fuck? This is one thing that I just cannot even remotely defend Milestone on at all. I just can't do it. Like, I understand they're trying to kind of do their own little thing. They're trying to make their own little whip system. Like, trust me, I get it. But in all reality, it's really not that realistic at all. A lot of the Milestone fanboys love to try to go in there and defend this thing where they say, oh, well, that's more realistic to turn your bike one way and turn your rider the other. Well, it's actually not, motherfucker. If you rode in real life, you would realize when you come off of the jump face to do a whip, you are turning the handlebars one way and you're leaning that same way, or it won't even turn the bike at all. It won't. Now, after you actually get off the jump face and you're in the air, yeah, you can make the argument that you do kind of, you're turning one way and you're having to lean the other way so you don't just fall off the back of the bike. You know, you kind of have to lean on that leg that's actually getting pulled off the bike when you're doing a whip to pull yourself back around, but you don't really do that when you're coming off of a jump face. Like, if you just come off a jump face in real life and you turn the handlebars one way and you're just leaning the complete opposite direction, it's not going to do shit. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to do anything. You have to lean the same direction or it won't even float your ass end out. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's why that's the way it is in Reflex, dog. Like, that's why that's the way it is in all these other motocross games. It's not like they're just a bunch of idiots and don't know what they're doing, but Milestone wants to go in there and invert all that, change all that, and it just creates this super alienated feeling to these Milestone motocross games. I just cannot believe from a business standpoint that they would even go in there and do that at all. Like, why would you do that? Why would you change such a core critical control system to a motocross game? It's like going in there and changing some massive, let's just say, you know, they come out with Call of Duty, and when you, the main first-person controls that everybody's gotten used to, everybody knows how it goes, where you turn your character to the left or whatever, and then you look around with the other thumbstick, right? One thumbstick actually is the walking part of it, and one thumbstick is the looking around. Well, let's just say a new first-person shooter comes out like Battlefield, and they totally invert that. So it's the opposite. Like, the looking around is on the opposite thumbstick than it is in every single other first-person shooter. Could you imagine that shit, dog? Like, it would be insane. Well, that's exactly what's going on with these Milestone motocross games with their inverted whip controls. They have got to, it's one thing to have it in your game, like, that's one thing, but then to go in there and not even give us the option to change it back like it is in every other motocross game, that's absolute shit. That's just stupid. Like, you're just killing your fan base when you're doing that. It just makes no sense. You're just forcing it down our throats, and it's like, for what reason? Why? I just don't get why they would ever do that. What it does is it gives you the feeling of, like, you feel like you're almost not even really whipping in this game. That's really the way that it feels in these Milestone motocross games, because in this game, instead of actually like turning your thumbsticks both the same direction and having finesse and, kind of like leaning back and leaning forward and whipping and using the rider controls like you would in reflex, right? Like, it's not as simple as just turning your thumbsticks both the same direction, like, oh, turn that to the left and then the right one to the left. It's not like that in reflex. You actually have to have finesse. You actually have to roll up the jump face and lean back and use the rider movements as you're whipping over the jump face. But in these Milestone Motocross games, it just feels like you're turning your left thumbstick to the left and your right thumbstick to the right and you'll whip. Or it's like turn your right thumbstick to the right and your left thumbstick to the left and you'll whip. It's like so simplistic, such a beginner-friendly kind of whip. So there's just absolutely zero finesse involved to it whatsoever. There's none of that. There is none of that where it actually feels like, okay, you actually have to learn how to learn the whipping skill in the game. You guys know how MX versus ATV All Out, you actually have to learn how to whip in that game. Like when you first start trying to whip in that game, you can't whip for shit. You're going to whip and the bike's going to be like stuck pancake. You're going to land flat and, you're going to whip and it's going to like completely flip over. You're not going to be able to land it. Well, in this game, it's literally as simple as just come off the jump face, turn one thumbstick one way, turn the other thumbstick the other. Like straight, one all the way one way and one all the way the other way, and it will whip. It's just so simplistic, dude. And with these motocross games, especially when you get pretty good at them, the way you play them is it's all with mind muscle memory. You're not even actually really thinking about what you're doing when you're playing these games and you're riding at a pretty solid skill level. So the whip system in this game, like if you go in here and try to start whipping in this game, it will totally jack you up for every single one of those other motocross games when you go back to them. So it's almost like you can't even play this game consistently while you're playing those other motocross games, or your mind muscle memory is going to be all kinds of fucked because you can't get used to anything. This inverted control system, it makes it to where then when you go try to come off a jump face on reflex or MX simulator, it feels totally weird. It feels like, what the heck just happened? Like you have to almost like relearn how to whip again in those games after you sit here and play this game for a while and try to whip in this game, all because they just simply don't want to give you the option to whip like you would in any other motocross game. They just don't want to give you that option. No, you can't do it. Here we are all the way to MXGP Pro, right? I've been complaining about this for the past 4 games. They still ain't got this shit in here. It's like, good God, dude. Oh boy. It's rough. It's bad, dude. And the people that... And it even has another massive problem where, you know how in most of those other motocross games, when you go into a corner and you're kind of trying to like lean the rider one way and turn the bike the other way to try to like get off balance and try to, move the bike in a certain like snaky way on an S corner and certain stuff like that. You guys know what I'm talking about on some of those other motocross games like MX Sim and Reflex and stuff. When you try to actually like turn and lean the other way, well, you'll notice yourself when you try to do that in a corner on this game, it'll just instantly flip the bike over in the corner like that because it tries to go through its scrub animation, its whip animation in the game when you're not even trying to do a whip at all. You're just trying to turn the bike. So it's got this massive like bug issue, you could call it, in this game where it actually jacks you up in the corners, not just in the air, but it will jack you up in the corners when you really try to turn hardcore. You really get on the brakes. You're trying to lean on the outside to like counter lean the bike before you go into a corner and stuff. If you try to do that in this game, it just instantly knocks you off the bike because it tries to go through the scrub animation. So not only is it a super weird, bizarre, alienated feeling in the air, but it actually jacks you up in the corners too. So even more so of the reason, like, why the hell did they have that in there? I just don't understand. But like, honestly, seriously though, when I come off a jump face in this game, it feels like I'm not even whipping. It feels like I'm not even remotely doing any sort of whip at all. So it's frustrating that game companies can't realize some of the most simple things, and such a big thing too, the whips in these milestone games, like one of their biggest things that people complain about, and yet they won't even go in there and put the fucking control setup that you got to have to even feel like you're actually doing a real whip like you do in any other motocross game. They can't even get the control set up in there. It's like, god damn, how do you expect to make better whips if you can't even get the control set up in there for us? Like, jeez, dude, it's just so frustrating. But either way, like I said, you know, I'm a dude that has sat there and done 10 million thousand whips on Reflex, 10 million trillion thousand whips on MX Simulator. Like, I've whipped in every motocross game, dude, quite significantly. Like, I understand whip systems in these motocross games. I just feel like some people that give their opinions on this stuff, they just don't truly get it. They don't realize how real it feels to whip in MX Simulator when you're turning basically both your thumbsticks the same direction to whip, right? And having that lean finesse over it and leaning up over a jump face. And instead of just having that simple, like, turn one thumbstick this way and the other way, you know, that is just not a realistic whip feeling whatsoever, man. When you truly understand whips in motocross games, it's not realistic. To the basic, simple-minded fucks out there, yeah, it might seem realistic, like, that's kind of cool, dude. You turn one way and one the other way. Oh my god, that's like real life, isn't it? No, motherfucker, it's not like real life. It's not, like, that's the thing with Reflex. Like, when you come off of a jump face, you're turning both your thumbsticks one direction and you got all that finesse, but when you come back in the air, see, you can turn your bike one way and then start leaning the other way after you're already in the air in Reflex. You understand what I'm saying? To bring the bike back around. That's how that game works. Like, that's how you bring stuff back around. But this game, it's just so, I don't have any fucking words for it, dude. You know, whatever. I just had to come in here and make this video. Yeah, get on that, Milestone. Good God. You should have got on this a couple years back, but for the love of God, please, at least give us the option. I'm not even saying, you know, that you have to replace it or just get rid of your whip system, even though that would be smart to do that. I'm not saying you even have to do that. I'm just saying give us the option. Give us the option to change it. And with this inverted steering system that they have, it totally eliminates that, like, half-moon C shape that you have coming up the jump face. You know how you whip in real life and how you whip in Reflex and MX Simulator. It totally eliminates that whole entire aspect to it. The actual, what I like to call the skill of whipping, where you have to create that half-moon, you know, kind of C shape going up the face of the jump, where you carve the jump out, right? Where you start on one side, you're like turning up the other way and then turning back the other way right before you come off the jump face to sling the back end around. There's none of that in this game. You basically just come off the jump face perfectly straight, and then you do one thumbstick one way, one the other way, and it just sort of plays this whip animation. It's so simplistic in this game, dude. It really is. Like, oh, it's just sad. It's just sad. It's all there is to it, man. There's nothing else to say. I mean, it's just a sad system. Hopefully they can fix this, man. I'm hoping and praying. So either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.